Garage 3, 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 Garage 3. Garage 3 presents Spectra meets Sound and Vision. Volume 1, Rachel Bell, Rachel Bell.
This is called At Last by Etta James. I eat my first Chicago-style hot dog while urinating at a wedding that I wasn't invited to. Your parents' best friend's daughter is getting married, and you let me come to the reception because the bride said that it was okay. I decide that I do not like Chicago-style hot dogs. To be honest, I spit both the pepper and the pickle into the sink while I pee. There's an open bar at the reception. We order screwdrivers, and the bartender insists on making us one of those red drinks that's been floating around. You order an old-fashioned. I order a whiskey ginger. We order screwdrivers. Your mom hugs me on the dance floor and says, "Welcome to the family," in my ear. You and I are underdressed and drunk, and a woman comes up to me and says, "Who are you here with?" I think that she knows me from somewhere and is happy and surprised to see me, so I smile. She says, "Did you come here from the beer fest?" And I read in her facial expression that she is being confrontational and not trying to start a friendly conversation with me. I furrow my brow and open my mouth. Before I can say anything, your mom says to the woman, "She is with us," in a fierce tone, and she puts her arm around me. I realize that the woman was accusing me of sneaking into the wedding, and I feel hurt. I decide to focus on how special I felt when your mom stood up for me instead of focusing on feeling hurt. I must be having a lot more fun than that woman if she's worried about wedding crashers while I'm sweating out all this free alcohol on the dance floor. We are getting your family into a cab, and I look at my phone. It's 11:58 p.m. They stopped serving alcohol at midnight. I run up the stairs and see the bartender who insisted on making us the disgusting red drinks. They were really bad. Why didn't he just make us the screwdrivers that we ordered? I say, "Hey man, those red drinks were really something, but thank you for encouraging me to try something new. Is it too late for me to get 2 large cups of just whiskey?" The bartender surreptitiously pours me 2 large highball glasses full of whiskey, and I tip him $10. Downstairs, I see the security guard walking into the men's room, and I run outside with the full glasses before he can stop me. I am cackling, to be honest. I fall asleep in the cab holding your hand. I went to a bar with my friend Chase in St. Petersburg, Florida. I drove my dad's 2009 mint green Prius over the Sunshine Skyway Bridge to meet him at a bar where I watched Jurassic Park for the first time while a DJ played trap music. Chase made fun of me for saying that I like to date people who have Wikipedia pages. When I tried to kiss him by a dumpster that he had just peed on, he grabbed me by the shoulders, looked me in the eyes, and said, "Rachel, are you sure? I don't have a Wikipedia page." On Halloween 2014, I dressed up as the Virgin Mary and I went to a party. I started 2 chants on the dance floor. "Squad, squad, squad," and "I'm a piece of shit, I'm a piece of shit." When I was leaving, I changed my tampon in an alley. I won tickets to see Against Me play a concert while I was in Nashville, and I decided to go. While smoking a cigarette on the back porch of the venue, I saw a pickup truck parked nearby with a gas can in the back. I turned to the guy next to me and said, "I'll give you $20 if you can throw that lit cigarette into the gas can." And he said, "That's my truck." I was driving to Los Angeles with my friend Christian, and we stopped in Fruita, Colorado to go to a dinosaur museum. The woman behind the desk asked me if I was a Mormon missionary, even though I was wearing a denim vest with a naked woman on it, a button that said "shit burner," and a patch that said "choking victim, no gods, no managers." Getting ready for a poetry reading, this guy asked me, "Are you going to wear the same thing you wore last night? That was cute." I said, "Why would I do that? I have other clothes." He said, "Yeah, but what about your brand?" I said, "Wearing the same dirty laundry to every reading I do isn't branding. I'm not Hey Arnold." He said, "It's been so interesting getting to know you." And I said, "There's more than just corn in Indiana." I almost choked to death in a Taco Bell in northwest Indiana, and while I was punching myself in the chest in the bathroom to dislodge the tortilla wedged in my esophagus, I thought, if I die in Indiana, I will kill myself. At a dance party in a basement, this guy said, "Hey girl, do you like Molly?" and tried to reach into my pants, touch my vagina. I pulled out my switchblade and said, "Bruh." He backed off. The next day, he sent me a friend request on Facebook. I was crying in the car with my friend Alfred during South by Southwest. Instead of asking me why I was upset, he pulled into a McDonald's drive-thru and ordered me a McDouble with no pickles. I love him. Rick had a party, and when almost everyone had left, we discovered a girl that no one knew had been asleep on the bed under all of the coats. She had been there for at least 2 hours. We woke her up. Lindsay said, "Are you okay?" And she said, "I'm just thinking." We convinced her to stand up, and I asked her how she was going to get home. She said, while looking at her iPhone, "I'm trying to call a cab, but I don't think there are any nearby." I looked at her phone, and she was searching restaurants open for delivery. It was 4 in the morning. She just kept clicking a button that said "No deliveries available" over and over. My car was in the shop, and I was very depressed. I needed a ride home from work, so I messaged a random, somewhat attractive guy on OkCupid and asked him out. He said yes. I asked if he could pick me up for the date from my job and then take me back to my house after the date. I was essentially using him for transportation. I ended up dating him for 1.5 years. He pissed on all of my clothes when I broke up with him.
I'm here with Rachel Bell out of Chicago, Illinois. She just released her chapbook.
Welcome to your new life with you being happy.
I wanted to make sure that you said it so I wouldn't get it wrong.
It's okay, people have messed it up a lot.
Just gonna ask you a couple questions just about writing in general. We live in a pretty politically turbulent time with police violence and very partisan politics. How do you feel poetry fits into that?
I think an important thing that poetry has done is that it's become increasingly accessible with my generation, sort of. Over time, it's been a process. It's not just my generation, but in the past, older poets were supposed to be very educated, understand form and stuff, and because it's become more accessible, it's sort of taken the elitism away from it, so it's given the power of expression, or at least the focus on this work, more to people who are less educated or less likely to be white men, I guess. Like, we had T.S. Eliot and Charles Bukowski and all these people who were considered very important poets, but they weren't necessarily making anything that led to any sort of civil disobedience or change in negative policies or basically shitty things that were just happening politically. So now you see a lot more focus on slam poetry and a lot of different forms of poetry that have a history in maybe non-binary people or just minorities, different races besides just white people, which I think is really good.
Very cool. Second question. This one's a little heavy. You address your rapist in one of your poems. I've seen video of you reading it. I'm excited to see it in print too. It seems like just kind of, at least by people's response on social media to your book, that this is a cornerstone of your chapbook.
Yeah.
Was that your intention when you wrote it, or was that just kind of a...
Something that happened?
Yeah.
It wasn't in my intention at all. I knew that it would be a significant part of the book, not necessarily in length, but as far as impact. So I did send it to a couple people before I decided to include it in the book to kind of get their point of view on it. Molly Soda, who's also an internet artist, kind of like myself, her opinion on it was very important to me, so I sent it to her and she looked over it and we had a good conversation about it that led to me making some changes in word choice. But I think it's something that I've gone through that is really more common than most people have realized. And what I want my writing to do is help people to an extent. I want people to read it and be able to empathize with it, and maybe it teaches them something about how they can cope with a hard situation like being raped. So I've had, young women and young men tell me they read my book and that it helped them. This girl who lived in Chicago, who I'd never met before, but we were friends on Facebook, read it, and she said that it helped her start the process of forgiving her rapist while still maintaining safety and distance from him, and that made me feel really good. But I was worried about it being misinterpreted.
Personally, when I heard you read it in that video on your Facebook, it was very interesting to hear the sort of strength it seemed that you took from that.
Yeah, and that definitely wasn't immediate. And one thing that I wanted to emphasize in the piece, I talk about how forgiveness gave me power back. And I know that is not a path that a lot of victims can travel, especially if your rapist is someone who you interact with in your day-to-day life. So I wanted to emphasize that I didn't want anyone to put themselves in danger by following my advice or whatever. But yeah, it definitely made me feel powerful to be able to forgive someone, and just like a weight was lifted off me. And I always say that in arguments I value a well-dictated, kind point of view more than someone who is just holding a grudge, And it's kind of the same thing, where I think forgiveness is it's good practice for your heart, and it's way more admirable and harder to do, I think, than just holding on to a grudge.
Very cool.
Thank you.
And my last question for you, this is more just curiosity on my end. Do you embrace the term personally of alt-lit for what you write?
I think when people that I interact with mostly hear alt-lit, they think of a certain time period and a certain scene, specifically on the internet. And I am very grateful to what being involved in it in 2012 and 2013 opened me up to. I think it started out in a lot of positive ways. It was encouraging people to write from all over the world, people who normally wouldn't interact with each other, to make things. And I'm always for that, encouraging creativity. But it didn't do a lot of favors for minorities. It ended up being pretty toxic for women, which came out recently. A lot of men abusing power in the publishing world. And it was, minorities were extremely underrepresented. And I was obviously a part of that as a white person. And I didn't want to be contributing to a scene that was effectively silencing people if I could help that. So I've definitely maintained really cool relationships, but I don't like to use those words even anymore, because I think they're really pretty tainted. It's definitely, what I write is alternative to traditional literature because of just certain aspects of it, but mostly I value the people I met through a scene called alt-lit without trying to consider my writing in a particular genre called alt-lit. Yeah.
It's absolutely understandable.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rachel, for recording with us. This is awesome.
Thank you for having me.
Guest. You want to tell them the link for the book? And
yeah, I don't know the link off the top of my head, but my book is called Welcome to Your New Life with You Being Happy. It's published by Pioneers Press. You can find it by Googling either of those terms and my name. And you can add me on Facebook, Rachel Bell, or follow me on Twitter, Rachel Taco Bell.